Well, hello there. We are talking today with Christina Bieche of Sinnissippi Centers, who is a behavioral health clinician and someone who has run groups on grief for Sinnissippi Centers. And you'll find out why we're talking about that as we record this today. So first of all, Christina, hello.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Doing good under the circumstances. I think what we're going to talk about, how everybody maybe is experiencing this coronavirus situation that we're currently in right now as we're recording this a little bit differently. In fact, why don't we just go ahead and get started, because I've been thinking about this for several weeks, and you've done a grief group. And like I said, everyone does experience COVID-19 a little bit differently. So you've got people who are home with their entire families. You've got people who are working from home, maybe by themselves, or maybe there's somebody there. Some are out of work completely right now and don't know what's going to happen. Others are in the at-risk group and may not have left the home at all, or haven't left certainly for a very long time. And we're all experiencing, I think, however, the common thing that we're all experiencing is a loss of normalcy, especially. Or can we call it grief? And I know we can experience grief from a lot of different things in life. So I wanted to talk to you about this today and see, first of all, I'll ask you the question, am I thinking about that even correctly? Is this situation that we're in, can we say that we've experienced grief because of a loss of normalcy and a loss of some other things?
Sure, Andy. Absolutely. I think that grief plays a major role in some of the experiences that we're having right now. First of all, I just want to say that my heart goes out to all the people that have lost a loved one, as well as the way of life that they deeply love, need, and desire on a daily basis. And like you said, the word grief, can most commonly be associated with the death of someone or someone close, but actually it can often relate to some of the losses we're experiencing with this pandemic. Some of those losses can include the loss of financial stability, the loss of normalcy, the loss of routine. Daily routine is so important. The loss of freedom to go and do whatever we want, whenever we want. Being able to hug our loved ones and be with friends, coworkers, celebrating in some of life's milestones. Many students are experiencing that without experiencing graduation, end of the year proms, weddings being canceled, and even funerals being memorialized in a different way than we're used to. That loss of sense of certainty, sense of safety, sense of predictability, all of it can leave us feeling unsure about what's going to happen next, and can most definitely be called grief.
Okay, so how do we know then? I mean, we may suspect it, but can we know that we're experiencing grief? What are the stages?
Sure. It's important to remember that grief is a normal reaction to loss. We all experience grief at some point in our lives. While we might expect feelings of sadness, anger, numbness, anxiety, some signs might be less clear, especially during this time. Some signs you might be coping with grief during the pandemic may include trouble focusing on normal tasks, irritability, anger, sleeping much more or less than usual, headaches, upset stomach, fatigue, low energy, maybe re-experiencing some feelings of past grief, engaging in activities like eating, drinking, online shopping to cope with anxiety. I know I'm a victim of that. Avoiding thinking or talking about the pandemic at all. And as far as stages of grief, well, most of us know those as shock and disbelief. Is this really happening? Denial, this virus won't affect us, that can't hurt me. There's anger, you're making me stay at home and taking away my activities. There's bargaining, such as, okay, if I social distance for a couple weeks, then everything will be okay. There's sadness. I don't know when this will end, if it ever will. Mm-hmm. And there's acceptance. This is happening. I have to figure out how to proceed. And I'm a big fan of acceptance. Moving towards acceptance is very healing. And as you might imagine, it's where our power lies. We find control in acceptance. I can wash my hands. I can keep a safe distance. I can learn how to work virtually. I can learn how to teach my kids school. We start to create a new meaning for what is happening around us.
Yeah, that's all very, very, very good. So, do we experience all the stages? Do they come in order every time? Do we jump around? Can we go back and forth? Can we enter and exit grief? I know that's a lot of questions, but can you address that?
Sure. Understanding grief is realizing that no one experiences the same thing. It's different for each person. Every person goes through stages in their own way. It's a very personal experience. You may go back and forth between stages. You might skip one or more stages altogether and then find yourself coming back to it later. Um, it's a process that takes time. Healing happens gradually. It can't be forced or hurried. There's no normal, so to speak, timetable for grieving. Some people start to feel better in weeks. Sometimes it takes months or even years. Not to mention, sometimes reminders of our loss can re-trigger things from our past, which can be very re-traumatizing for some. We just have to remember that whatever our grief experience is, it's important to be patient with yourself and allow the process to unfold naturally.
Yeah, I think you raise a great point there too. Sinnissippi Centers is a trauma-informed agency, and experiencing
Yeah.
grief can bring up some of those traumas as well. So not only are you experiencing grief, but you may be re-experiencing some trauma, which I suppose carries its own grief as well. So what can people do then if they don't already know, or they don't know all of the answers of how can they deal with this grief process? What do they do?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Andy. Um, People are dealing with grieving in so many different ways. In fact, lots of people find ways to deal with grief normally. But in this situation, we've had to get pretty creative. Basic self-care continues to be a main focus, including sleep, staying hydrated, eating a healthy diet, finding time to exercise, like going for a walk. Um, but the most important thing that I'm seeing seems to be super helpful is connection.
Mm-hmm.
Connect as much as you can with people. Use technology, mail letters, old school way, participate in virtual activities. Connecting with others is so reassuring and comforting, more comforting than anyone expects at the beginning. Um, Another thing is just to allow feelings to come. Try not to be too self-critical or judgy of those feelings, but
Mm-hmm.
if you need to cry, cry. If you need to feel upset about something, feel upset about it. It's okay. Take a break from social media, news, conversations about the coronavirus and how it's impacting you. That can get just as exhausting in itself. Plan to do activities that feel enjoyable, something to look forward to that you can relax and just kick back and get away from it all. Having something to look forward to can really help us get through stressful situations. And then, of course, there's practicing mindfulness, meditation, journaling, visualization techniques are all extremely helpful too, can help us find balance and stay present in the moment. Um, and finally, it's really important to try to let go of what you can't control. If we focus more on the opportunities instead of the barriers and challenges, we can't help but feel more empowered, more in control. It's hard, definitely not easy, but it is possible.
Well, I know in a way we're kind of having this conversation a little late, but in another way, like I said, I've been thinking about this in terms for weeks, and I wasn't even, given where I work, I'm a marketing coordinator, I'm not a clinician, but still, given where I work, I hadn't even sort of arrived at this myself until weeks and weeks in, and so I thought, well, if I'm having that experience, maybe other people are too, and so let's go ahead and still have this conversation. And I think it can still be of use to people, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I think that we need to continue to have this conversation because not everyone realizes that they may be going through grief. And I think what you're finding right now is a lot of people are just stuck in sadness and stuck in
Hmm.
anger,
Yeah.
and not really able to move towards the acceptance piece or finding new meaning piece, because we are sad and we are angry. And it's okay to acknowledge that, but it seems like a lot of us are getting stuck there. And the best way to move through that is to have support, to have people to reach out
Yeah.
to connect. And Sinnissippi provides that too, as
Yeah.
well as other mental health agencies in local areas.
Yeah, great point there too. And of course, we don't know how long this goes on, or for how long, or when the
Right.
vaccine is effective, or are we going to go through another round in the fall? Are we going to go through a much smaller version of this, but still a version of this next year before this is all completely done? There's so many uncertainties, and I think this is still great information. I thank you so much that you gave it. And of course, you raised a great point and a nice one to finish with. Sinnissippi Centers is still operating. We're still serving people very much fully, just using technology, phone-based, video-based, like we're doing right now, and we're still there to provide care and offer hope.
Yeah, and I really think it's important too that if people notice that they're starting to stay really stuck in that depression phase and feeling like they have a life that's not worth living, they start having more focused thoughts on death, feeling really numb and disconnected, they're even isolating in their own rooms, having difficulty trusting other people or questioning a lot of everything that's going on every day, unable to perform normal daily activities or keep up with their personal hygiene. If those things are starting to get impacted, it's really, really important to reach out to a professional for support. We can help, we can be there, and we can provide that much needed compassion that we all need right now.
All right, well, let's put that number up. Let's see. Well,
Yes, our crisis.
and that's our crisis number as well. So it's the number also to call before you need services. So we'll leave that up for just a little bit as we end the conversation. But like you said, that's we're still there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for crisis calls. This is also the number that you can call to get services if you like, if you think, especially with what you just said. If you have any inkling at all that you would need some services, especially during this month. We're recording this during May as Mental Health Month. And we're trying to get more awareness out of mental health in general and the other things that we're doing as well. So if you need anything, definitely that number is the one to call right up there. And we're also, by the way, we're going to put some links, I think, in this video toward the grief aspect that we'll put in there for people to click on to, links in the description. So anything else real quickly? I know we took a lot of time, but I think you packed it in with a lot of great information. But any final thoughts?
I just want people to know they're not alone. We're all collectively grieving. It's almost like it's a pandemic of grief.
Yeah.
We are all collectively grieving at the same time. We are all in this together. The frontline workers, everyone, even the people here that are here to support and help, we're experiencing some of those things too. And so we get
Yeah.
it. We understand. And sometimes just having someone to vent to or talk about it with is all that you need. So please reach out and connect.
Well, I can testify to that personally because working from home and I'm in the solitary situation. It's really, I can tell the difference between a day when I do something like this with talk with somebody, whether it's through video or the phone or something like that, and if it's a day where I'm just working and I don't have any of that human contact. It goes back to what you said earlier. I can tell a huge difference myself in that. So I think reaching out to contact
For
people
sure.
is a good thing whenever you can. Thank you so much, Christina Bieche, our behavioral health
You're
clinician
welcome.
from Sinnissippi Centers on this very important topic. And
Welcome.
be well and enjoy. We're recording this on the entry to the Memorial Day weekend, so enjoy your holiday weekend.
Thank you, Andy. You too.
Thank you.